3 years. I think that it's getting some kind of stability at the school. And in this series we have had practical workshops dealing with things like Tai Chi and yoga, and then also lectures dealing with things that are directly related with what we do here at the school, such as, for example, the art of rhetoric or how to write short stories, and things that are complementary to that, such as the lecture that we had last year about intercultural communication, and today's Richard's lecture about human relationships. Now, the word psychology originally, etymologically, means the science of the soul. But in modern times, it has become a kind of more superficial science, dealing with just one layer of the soul, what we could call the psyche. Now, Richard belongs to that special kind of psychologist who really deals with the whole person, not only with the psyche, not only with the mind, but also with the spirits, with the integrity of human beings. And the kind of most ideal setting to see Richard at work is not this, but in the setting of face-to-face, or working with a person, working with a group, helping people really to grow, to become fuller human beings and to come to understand themselves more fully, and also to overcome difficulties in themselves and in their relationships to others. And when I asked Richard to come, we were discussing briefly the topic that he would talk about, because he could really speak about many things. And we decided that maybe a good idea would be to focus on something that is of such immediate relevance to all of us, which is human relationships. In some form or another, we are all struggling with difficulties in human relationships, maybe in the family, maybe at work. And we have experienced both positive and negative things about human relationships. And it's one of those things, such as, for example, parenting, or how to be a better husband or a better wife, that nobody teaches. Nobody teaches that at school. They teach maths, they teach physics, you know, they seem to be more important. But this is very important, really, because it is central in our lives. So he's going to talk about that. I don't know exactly from what angle, because he's more or less unpredictable, and this is one of his characteristics. We will see. To me, personally, this is a great pleasure and honor, because more than anything else, Richard is a friend, and someone that, from whom I have learned a lot, okay, personally. And I think that even in this inadequate academic setting, he can transmit to you in this lecture some of the great treasure that he has of knowledge and experience and insight. What we're going to do is, he's going to talk for about 45 minutes, and then we're going to open a question and answer session in which you will be invited to ask whatever you always wanted to ask about human relationships, and you couldn't. Okay, so I leave you, Richard.
Thank you, Amelia. Is this okay? Everybody hears. Well, hello, welcome to the talk on human relationships, boundaries, and love. To introduce this theme of human relationships, I'm going to talk tonight about 3 relationships which are really one: you, the other, and the world. Our feelings and sense of being separate from each other. An original meaning of relationships, which is relating or bringing back our stories. Boundaries as a way of connecting in relationships. Our push-pull, or attraction and resistance to relationships. What is needed for healthy relationships? How we move through relationships which are all about us into truly being with one another. And finally, the three fields of healthy relationship. I, you, and we. Now, the very first recorded account of human relationships, boundaries and love, is about 10,000 years old. It is found in the ancient Sumerian story of Inanna and Dumuzi. I'd like to tell it to you. Inanna, the goddess of the light world, travels to the underworld to meet her sister, the dark goddess Ereshkigal. At each of the 7 gates to the underworld, she must give up something, clothing, jewelry, until she comes into Ereshkigal's presence naked and bowed. The dark goddess is in mourning for her spouse, and out of her pain, her utter misery, she has Inanna slaughtered and hung on a peg, where she turns into rotting meat. But Inanna has made emergency plans. Before she left the light world, she instructs the god of water and wisdom, Enki, to take steps to rescue her if she does not return within 3 days. Enki waits, and when Inanna does not return, he produces 2 tiny entities from under his fingernails. Since they are not human, these entities are able to pass through the 7 gates unnoticed. They come before Ereshkigal, who is still deeply mourning, and they listen to her suffering. They mirror back her pain in a litany of pure acceptance and healing. Ereshkigal is so grateful for their profound empathy that, in a gesture that would be repeated in hundreds of fairy tales in the future, she offers anything in her domain. Of course, they ask for the corpse of Inanna. Restored to life, Inanna reappears in the light world, newly radiant and entirely transformed. Through facing her inner darkness, she is now whole. She discovers Dumuzi, her spouse, her consort, sitting on her throne, having assumed the kingly sovereign position in her absence. And memorably, it is written, she fixed on him the eye of death. She fixed on him the eye of death. She invites him to make his own descent and confront his inner darkness. What else could she do to make her mate worthy of her? In terror, Dumuzi flees to his sister's house to hide. But Inanna pursues him, and the sister strikes a bargain with Inanna, whereby she stands in for Dumuzi for half the time. She will descend to the netherworld for half the year, and Dumuzi will descend for the other half. In this way, Dumuzi rejects the descent and avoids not only his own transformation, but his deep relationship to Inanna. And so, in the very first love story ever, we have this theme of boy meets girl, woman offers a relationship to a man, who avoids total intimacy by meeting her halfway as a part-time partner. 10,000 years old, but actually very modern. There are three broad types of relationship in life. Yourself, the other, and the world. These are all relationships of different kinds. You have a relationship with yourself. You have various kinds of relationships with others. And you have a relationship to the world about you, the bigger picture, the outside world. These relationships are not separate. These relationships affect each other. And mostly we may be too busy to even think about these relationships. We're too busy doing, surviving, feeding ourselves and our dependents. Working, studying, too busy, but nonetheless we are relating all the time to these three fields: self, other, and the world. And I would like to give you some questions now to think about. Not just think about, but feel. And these questions are: who am I? And who is the other? Who am I and who is the other are not questions we often think about, because we are always with ourselves and surrounded by others for most of the time. But relationships are tremendously important, aren't they? You cannot even think of life without them, can you? Our lives are defined by our relationships. And I invite you now to take a minute and close your eyes, if you will. Close your eyes and think of the important people in your life that you are in relationship with. And ask yourself these questions. What distance is there between us? How do I judge others? Who are you to me? How are we similar? And what makes us different? Now, would you gently open your eyes and look around the room at each other, of course, and think about these questions again, just looking at each other next to you across the room. And ask yourself these questions. Who am I? Who is the other? What distance is there between us? How do I judge you? Who are you to me? How are we similar? And what makes us different? I'm pretty sure that one thing we all share as we look around the room at each other is this: I and the other are separate. We're different. I am not you, and you are not me. Whatever else we may experience as we look around the room at each other, judgment, attraction, fantasy, nervousness, confidence, excitement, fear, I think we may all agree we're separate from each other. Now, if you consider the world, this world, our world, the relative world of time and space, where everything is changing, you notice that not only is self and other separate, everything is separate. All things have an opposite, and that's separate. For example, day and night, right and wrong, near and far, beautiful and ugly, and so on. It all starts here with the vital breath. You begin your life with an in-breath, and you will end it with an out-breath. This cycle of breathing in and out is the most immediate exchange between two, the inner and the outer, within your body and outside your body. And when you think of your body as you, yourself, what could be more obvious in your relationship to life but breathing in and breathing out? Life and death. Vitality and lifelessness. Life, death. In, out. Take a breath now, would you? In and out. And experience the in-breath, the out-breath. And feel how your life, your awareness, your vitality, your sense of relationship to the world and to others and to yourself, it all depends on your breath. In and out. This is the relationship. This is relationship. For you breathe in the other. You see? You breathe in the other. You take in the other through your eyes, your ears, your touch. And you give to the other in the same way, in and out. The word relationship comes from the Middle French word for relate, relater, which means to recount or tell or bring back. So when you're in a relationship, you relate or communicate some information, some events, some story. You tell your story by being there, simply through your presence. You are the story. The story you are telling is you. And when there are two human beings involved in relationship, of course, there's two stories. So the relationship of two people is really the meeting of two stories. But do I know my story? Do you know your story? That means, do you know yourself? And when we look at this question deeply, the answer is surely no. And yes. That we do and we do not know our stories. On the one hand, I know my story. My name's Richard. I was born in London in England. I had a sister. I went to school. I grew up. I became a therapist and a writer, and so on. All these
What happened?
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, me neither. I was filming.
You mentioned your story.
It's my story that did
You're something fishy there. Let's tell
I was there. I wasn't even here. It's here.
Try now.
I think we're on.
Okay.
One. I think it's working.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
So, my story again. All these facts are obvious to me. I know them. I'm conscious of them. But much of my story, you see, I didn't know. Because it was unconscious. For example, when I was young, I explored my unconscious in psychotherapy. I found out things about myself I didn't know. I didn't know I was afraid of the world. I didn't know I was jealous in my relationships, my primary love relationships. And I didn't know how angry I was. And I didn't know what I really wanted. And the more I explored my inner world, the more I discovered that I did not know myself. Now, human relationships, a healthy relationship between two people, depends on the two people knowing themselves first. Your unconscious has a tendency and even a desire to become conscious. It is trying to appear in the light. And you know this because when you are unguarded, you lose your inhibitions. You behave unusually, out of your usual habit. You express private emotions freely, and you act in unexpected ways. You think less, and you act more. You behave more authentically, because you're not hiding. So, for example, when a person gets drunk and acts violently, or takes recreational drugs and acts lovingly, or seductively, or when, to your embarrassment, a relative or a friend at a party tells you how much they like you. You experience the hidden or secret part of them, which is their story, their unconscious story. The one they may not even know themselves. And so far, what I'm trying to tell you is also a story. The story appears to me as my point of view. This point of view appears in the realms of relationship, across the divide, a boundary between you and I. In this moment, a relationship exists, defined by me talking to you, relating a story to you. We are taking each other in. We're in a relationship. Let's hold this idea of relationship as story and unconscious story for a minute and look at the second, but obviously related theme of the talk, boundaries. We may be aware of relationship boundaries because we are aware of abuse, personal invasion, ill treatment. This kind of thing is high profile today. Nearly everyone has some knowledge of human psychology through the media, and most people feel justified about protecting their personal boundaries, not being taken advantage of, and defending themselves emotionally, energetically and physically. But have you noticed that as we have taken up psychological boundaries, so the physical ones have gone up too? Today there are more fences and walls and road signs, painted lines and public notices telling us what we can do and what we can't do. Advertisements telling us what we should buy and what we shouldn't buy. They're everywhere. More than ever before. I've lived in Andalusia for 12 years and seen the increase in the pollution of our environment. And I'm not talking about noxious gases or toxic substances, but shouting, screaming, physical boundaries are also pollution. Andalusia used to be a quiet place. The town I live near used to have a lovely little dirt road climbing up into the mountains. You could see the night sky and all the planets and stars. And then the town hall installed streetlights so children could throw stones. And pavements, parking signs, signs to the mountain. Why do you need a sign to a mountain? Notices telling you where you are, because human beings today don't know without being told. Signs about speed and falling rocks, directions to picnic areas, where before you just stopped and ate under a beautiful tree. Have you noticed that today you do not relate intimately, spontaneously or naturally with the countryside, unless you ignore the rules, the messages that shout at you from each road and corner? I have an idea about all of this setting of boundaries, this authoritarianism, beyond the obvious fear and unnatural human need. We seem to have to divorce ourselves from nature, to dominate nature. I have an idea, and it's this. In the last 100 years has coincided with a strong sense of personal self. Never before in the history of humanity have we had such a strong sense of me, myself, and mine, and you, yourself, and yours. We moved into the cities, into urban developments to depend on each other and share our resources. But commercial interests, religious forces, and the dynamics of power, politics, and massive corporations divided us and alienated us from each other still further. Today, we enter into relationships with others through our boundaries and our selfness in a very separate, exclusive way. But what if boundaries were something else? Not merely a negative expression of separation, this standoff, keep away, do not hurt me statement we make to the world, which keeps us protected and alone. What if instead of being barked at like road signs and advertising hoardings, like these physical boundaries, boundaries enabled relationships to be? What if we consider boundaries in their etymological root of binding, meaning how we are bound to the earth, to this world, and to each other, in soul and spirit and heart, bound in the sense of connected to life, obliged to respond to life and to be one with life. These bindings then become how we are bound or how we relate, or how we relate our stories to each other. Would you join me now in a short exercise? Simply take a breath and turn to the person next to you. Make eye contact and allow yourself to become aware of the ideas we are discussing. Do you not feel like doing this? It's not mandatory. You don't have to. But if you do, turn to the person next to you, look at them, and let's take these ideas, not just mentally, but feel the ideas and experience them and see if they can enter your reality in relationship as you look and sense and feel the person in front of you in openness, relating. I need you to look at a face before I say the next part, by the way. I mean, just look at the face, just briefly. Thanks. But it is said that as you grow older, your face reflects the story of your life. Have you heard that? Your face reflects your life. How you lived your life and the choices you made, whether or not you're relaxed or anxious, clear or bewildered, angry or loving, will show in your face as it is aged by time. Is that why we don't want to look at each other? You relate the story of your life not only through words, but through your face, through what you look like. So as you get older, there's nowhere to hide. See? So allow yourself to be seen as well as to see the other and feel the boundary between you. Now, one point that seems too obvious, it hardly needs saying, is this. People are attractive. Hardly needs saying. People are attractive. We are attracted to each other. Perhaps you would allow yourself to feel that idea. We're attracted to other human beings. And sometimes because they're similar to us, and sometimes because they're different. In my work as a psychotherapist, I meet people who have an urge to be isolated, alone. We call it the hermit archetype. They feel a call, an impulse, to be a hermit, to live alone and spend their lifetime with only themselves. This is the part of us that wants to be isolated from the rest of the human race. Because sometimes relationships and boundaries, intimacy and connection can seem much too painful, too challenging, too complicated. But, however strong the attraction to the hermit, I never met anyone who wasn't more attracted to other human beings than they were to being on their own. We have a push-pull relationship with each other. We want to be together, to open up and share and have companionship. But another part of us resists and pushes friendship away. We are ambivalent about relationships, about love, about friendships, and about intimacy. And this is most obvious and intense and strong in our primary love relationships. There are many ways to resist intimacy. Many ways. But here are the most common ways I have seen, and they are 6 in number. The first is merging. When two people have no sense of themselves, their individual self, or their story, they can have no sense of the other. Each feels dependent on the other. And there is the unconscious desire to return to the mother-child relationship of security and helplessness. This is a boundary-less relationship in which the two individuals do not feel complete on their own or with each other. It looks or feels like this. Merging, you see. The second is leaning, and this is a relationship of dependency, which is also infantile, childish, and based on the need for support. If one partner discovers independence, or even moves toward their individual separate life, the other falls. It's leaning. Each depends on the other for stability. The third is the power-based relationship, or more accurately, the power-over relationship. And here, power displaces love as the primary currency. Idolizing an image replaces feeling. So no meeting can take place. This is one, this is one. One's above. There's no meeting that's possible in this kind of relationship, only power. There's no equality and there's no level place to meeting. The dynamics of power are only present as domination, control, and suppression. 4. The fourth is twin frustration. And here the two people in relationship believe they can never be free. Attempting to deny their inner devils and stubbornness, they give their passion negative expression. This is the couple who are permanently irritated with each other. They disagree and they argue with each other the whole time. They're always annoyed with each other. And they have made an unconscious pact to go down fighting. Not fighting dissatisfaction and compromise in their lives, but fighting each other, blaming each other and resenting each other. And the fifth is the freeze-out. This couple is cold and competitive with each other. They put each other down and they criticize and they enjoy belittling each other and rejecting each other. And this is different to twin frustration, number 4, because there's some fire in this. This type of couple are frosty and icy and bitter toward each other. The frustrated ones had the fire. Okay? Fire. Cool. Finally, the bridge. The couple who have a bridge between them do not cross it at the same time. So they remain apart and blame the other one for not meeting in the middle. Bridge. When one comes to centre to meet, the other, which is this one backs away. And when the one who backed away before comes back to the middle to meet, this one backs away. It's a dance. They're never going to meet here in the middle. And they express the statement, the more I come toward you, the more you back away from me. We want to be together. We may even long to be with another person. But look at all these ways. Merging, leaning, power, frustration, freezing, and the bridge. All very successful ways that human beings have created, we have created, to ensure our relationships fail. What about healthy relationships? How are they possible? If we really want them, how can we have them and how can we make them work? First, know yourself, because whatever you do not know is hidden and surfaces in small ways at first and later on in bigger ways in your relationships as projection. We need to understand a little about the shadow. The shadow self is the part of us that we disown. What we do not accept in ourselves, we see in the other. It can be positive or negative. And when you're in a relationship, a lot of positive shadow qualities are projected onto the other. Later, only later, do the negative shadow qualities come to your awareness and your relationship suffers and deteriorates. Far better then to be aware of projections from the very beginning. Second, communicate. Talk, share and stay in touch with your partner, friend or loved one. The boundary between yourself and the other is a means to intimacy. But only if you express, talk, share, touch, and allow yourself to be touched in a variety of ways. And allow your private thoughts and feelings into the relationship, feeling trust and safety and acceptance from the other. Learn to listen to the other without interruption. And to sustain attention on them. To feel empathy and avoid problem solving. Listening usually is far more effective than telling people what to do or solving their problems. Third, discover the difference between love and need and desire. These three form a tight plait. A tight plait. They're wrapped around each other so tightly it can be almost impossible to distinguish them one from the other. Try and do it because they're different. And the different is crucial to your relationship and to your well-being. Desire is not love. Need is not desire. Love is not need. Yet they all have a place in the human experience. No one is without love, need, and and desire. And fourth, and lastly, become emotionally intelligent. Learn to experience your emotional life and your inner experience. Start with locating your psychophysical centers. You have three principal centers: mental, emotional, and active. Thinking, feeling, and willing. And these physical, emotional, energetic centers are located in your head, your heart, and your pelvis. They are key to understanding your emotions, your energy, and your mind. Do not be vague about your feeling, emotional life. Locate it within your body. Ask where you feel sad, afraid, angry, or hurt. And in time, you can become aware of the flowing life of emotions and the layers of emotions, one on top of the other. The intensity of your feeling life and your innate responses through feeling awareness. Work at it. Grow with it and allow yourself to become more fully human and heart-centered. I'm just going to check with you, Amelia, because I've got another quarter of an hour of material. Shall I just can it, or do you want me to carry on? It's up to you.
I think that we could maybe open the...
I'm aware we are. That's
here.
It's good.
Thank you.